Is InvadR a family coaster or a thrilling machine? I've heard both opinions, and in this video, I'm going to give my full review of the coaster. Let's get into it. InvadR is located at Busch Gardens Williamsburg and was built in 2017 by Great Coasters International, GCI. It actually stands as the park's newest operating coaster since Pantheon has not yet opened, at least at the time of recording this. InvadR is located in the New France, aka I think, the Canada section of the park. The theme fits this pretty well based on how you interpret it. I personally think it gives an old-timey Canada vibe, but I can see how some people would take it more Viking-like. The theme is only relevant near the station and plaza, as the rest of the ride is hidden from most of the paths. Walking up, there's a huge structure guarding the entrance. It looks really cool, but I don't exactly know what it's supposed to symbolize. If you know, definitely let me know in the comments. There's also a great sign for InvadR next to it. As it might seem, this coaster is a little hard to wrap your head around. The queue is no different. I actually thought it was really deceptive. You have to walk around the station to be greeted with a weird looking curving pattern. I would assume they're supposed to have ropes to direct traffic, but there were none on my experience. It made it a little confusing. Other than that, the queue is surrounded by wooden fencing. To me, the line does not seem that long, but in all actuality, it might have been the longest line I waited for in my entire trip at Busch Gardens. Then you reach the station, which continues the old wooden building look. Again, it fits into this early Canada theme. The trains are the typical Millennium Flyers found on most GCI coasters. These are slightly unique though. According to RCDB, these trains were refurbished from the defunct Gwazi coaster at Busch Gardens, Tampa. The trains have a nice horse-looking design in the front with cool carvings running down the train. And this just came to me based on the trains. I think I finally uncovered the underlying theme here. A mix of Trojan and Viking. That's my best way of describing it. Anyways, the train seats 2 riders per row in 8 cars for 16 riders per train. InvadR has 2 trains, which really speaks to its efficiency. Moving on to the layout, the coaster starts with a right turn out of the station into the lift hill. There's a small pre-drop section in which you turn to the left. The train then goes down the first drop at 74 feet. It's different to many of GCI's creations, as they normally start with a curved drop. There's also a wooden covering for the top portion of the drop. At the bottom of the hill, I think you hit your top speed of 48 miles per hour. There may be another spot in the layout where you hit this, so I'll mention that later on. Also, at the bottom of the drop, you pass under what I think is a service road. You then rise up to the right into a long banking turn. Following are 2 back-to-back bunny hills. Then is another turn to the right, and then another sustained airtime hill. This one is definitely more powerful than the 2 preceding it. Then there's a 180-degree turn to the right, and another 180-degree turn to the left. The left turn actually rises into an elevated portion though. This is what sets up the finale. Previously, the coaster was relatively high compared to the lift hill. Naturally, that means that this part of the coaster is generally slower, and I'm guessing this is why people consider it to be more of a family GCI coaster. I still think there are some good pops and nice forces going around the turns though. However, what follows is probably the best part of the ride. There's a beautiful, sustained airtime hill crossing over the first drop. Continuing to decline in elevation, there's another small pop of airtime. This one again delivers some good forces. The train then rises and banks down to the right into a huge helix. I like this helix because it starts high, rolls down low, and then ends high again. It creates a great variation in speed. At the bottom of the helix is where I think the other top speed could be hit. Remember, the top speed is only 48 miles per hour, so it's definitely possible. Exiting the helix, the train enters the final brake run, and the ride is over. Something I forgot to mention, but InvadR has a couple of head choppers, which is pretty cool. For the land given to InvadR, what it accomplishes I think is incredible. The park had to weed this coaster under the supports for Les Scoot, the park's log flume, also taking into account the train tracks and service roads. They were able to squeeze out just over 2,000 feet of track. In doing so, they may have created a more mellow ride experience than adrenaline junkies like myself would have liked, but it still works for the park. I mean, InvadR does sit between 2 monsters, Griffin and Alpengeist. I would venture to say that this is just above a family coaster and fills that gap perfectly. Now here's my biggest complaint. I found InvadR to be quite rough, especially for its age. The coaster opened in 2017, so it's not that old. Mystic Timbers opened in the same year, and I think it runs much smoother. All that being said, I like a slightly rough wooden coaster, so it's not that big of a deal to me. On the contrary, I think rough coasters can push a roller coaster out of the family category. That's the major reason why I put this outside the family coaster class. This means I would take a younger kid on Verbolten before InvadR. Verbolten may be bigger, but roughness isn't for the inexperienced riders. Within its own park, you just saw me place it right above Verbolten in intensity. It also is the only coaster in the park that is made out of wood, so it fills a big role. But what about other GCIs? Normally, I would branch off and compare. But it's kinda hard to do with this coaster. It's truly one of a kind, especially within its manufacturer's catalog. Normally, GCI has the crazy, fast-paced wooden coasters. This one doesn't necessarily fit there. So while I haven't ridden it, Wildcat at Hershey Park could be a comparable coaster. Although my thoughts would be that InvadR is the better coaster. It just has a better sequence to me. But what do I know? Again, that is just kinda speculation. So it's kinda worthless to do this section of a video. Alright, moving on, it's time to give this coaster a final score. For InvadR at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, I give it a 7 out of 10. There are a couple of improvements that it needs to have to be able to make it to a full 10. First, I would love to feel more of the forces on the hills and maybe some more speed. I understand the location is not the best, but I think it could do wonders. And of course, the roughness is okay right now, but I would watch in the next couple years to see if this thing becomes monstrously bad. So that's going to do it for my review of InvadR at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.